Hi everyone, it's Carrie from OESD. Today I'm going to show you how to make these spooky freestanding lace bats with your machine. These bats can be used in so many ways as I've shown here with all of our samples. So take out your embroidery machine and get ready for a wonderful, creative, and perfectly spooky machine embroidery experience. Let's take a look at these completed bats. There are 4 sizes. They're all done in one single hooping, minus this large one here. You'll need to zigzag these wing segments on separately. We'll talk about how to do that later. It's a super simple process. So we have the smallest to the largest, and together they make a super fun colony of bats. I've used some to decorate this bouquet, make a garland and a wreath, and even pin some to the walls. They're flexible and they can be molded to create a 3D effect for your decor. Let's start by going over some of the supplies you'll need to complete this project. All of OESD's collections that make projects come with full color step-by-step instructions on how you can get the perfect results, as you can see here. I'll be going through these steps with you and throwing in some tips and tricks along the way. We're using our Luxe Sparkle vinyl, but you can also use cotton fabric as well. It's fun to add that print in there. We're going to make a small bat for this demonstration. Here's what you'll need. OESD Aquamesh Washaway, OESD Badge Master Washaway, OESD Stable Stick Cutaway, Luxe Sparkle Vinyl. I use black and steel gray on this project. And then Isocord in colors 131 and 132. You'll also need a bobbin wound to match each of these colors. I have one in my machine already. OESD tearaway tape is also something you'll need for the cut and place method I'll show you first. It's also super handy to have in your embroidery toolbox. The other product that is a huge time saver is applique Fuse and Fix. I'll show you how to create these bats using both the cut and place and pre-cut method. You'll use Fuse and Fix for the pre-cut method. Normally, stable stick cutaway is used as a stabilizer behind garments or other material with a bit of stretch. But in this case, we're going to use it as a stiffener for the back of our Luxe Sparkle vinyl. You can see that on its own, Luxe Sparkle vinyl has some thickness, but we don't want our bats to be floppy. So we'll apply one layer of stable stick cutaway to the back of each of the pieces of Luxe Sparkle vinyl. This will give our bats the appearance of flying, giving the wings more structure after embroidery. So you'll peel the paper away, revealing a sticky piece of stable stick cutaway. Apply it to the back side of the sparkle vinyl, and you can see now it's much stiffer. Now that we've prepped our 2 pieces of sparkle vinyl, it's time to hoop our stabilizer. For freestanding lace and freestanding applique, we always recommend 2 layers of water-soluble stabilizer. In this case, we're using 1 layer of Badge Master and 1 layer of Aquamesh. The Aquamesh will give more stability during embroidery, and the Badge Master will leave more starch in your project, creating a stiffer finished result. I'll hoop these 2 layers together, and while it doesn't matter which layer is on top, I will typically place the Badge Master over the Aquamesh. Once we have our stabilizer hooped, it's time to start stitching. The method I'm going to show you first is what we call trim in place. This method is the same for almost all of our freestanding applique, so the techniques you see here can be translated into any freestanding applique project you might have in your stash. Our first step is to load the selected design into the machine. In this case, I'm using a Bernina, but we include all file formats in our collections, and this design will work on all makes and models. In this example, I'm using design 12957-05. You'll thread in the color the thread chart calls for. In this case, it's Isocord 0131. You want to match your top thread to your bobbin thread in most freestanding lace, freestanding appliques, so be sure to switch your bobbin out. Place your hoop on your machine, then we'll stitch machine step 1, which is what we call the placement stitch. Once that's done, you'll remove the hoop from the machine, but not the project from the hoop. You can see here the machine has stitched what we call the placement stitch. This is to indicate where we're going to put our prepped Luxe Sparkle vinyl. So you'll bring your hoop over to a flat surface, and we'll take our prepped Luxe Sparkle vinyl with the cutaway on the back, and we're going to completely cover the placement stitch on the front side of the hoop. We'll then use our tearaway tape to tape that in place. We're going to flip over our hoop, you can see on the back, and we're going to do the same thing with the second piece of prepped vinyl. Be careful when doing the back that you don't press too hard and pop your project out of the hoop. I like to flip it over and press again from the front. You're then going to take your hoop and put it back in the machine, and we're going to stitch what we call the tack down stitch. When that's complete, you're going to remove your hoop from the machine, but not the project from the hoop. You're going to place your design or your project on a flat surface, and you'll notice that the machine has stitched down what we call the tack down. You can see our digitizers are so smart, and they make 2 lines of stitching here. So we're going to trim away this excess Luxe Sparkle vinyl, and you can get as close as possible to this stitching line, because if you cut through this outer line, you still have the inner line to hold your applique in place. So let's cut this out. But you're just going to get as close as possible when you trim. You're going to trim away all of this excess sparkle vinyl and then do the same on the back. It's a little tough to see because we have a silver thread in. But through the magic of television, I have a completely trimmed version right here. And you can see you even want to trim out the vinyl here between the wing pieces, because that's what's going to give your bat's wings the ability to fold and become more three-dimensional. So when this trimming is complete, we're going to put this back on the machine and stitch as the thread chart calls for. The next stitch is going to be some detail. Let's see, you can see that here with these fun swirly whirlies. And then after that, it's going to do this satin stitch around the outside. So let's get that going. While that stitches, I wanted to show you the other method of applique we sometimes refer to. It's called the pre-cut method. With this technique, you're going to use applique fuse and fix. Applique fuse and fix can be used for all sewing and embroidery projects with applique pieces. One side is sticky, the other side is fusible. This can be stitched through and will not gum up your needle. And it doesn't leave your applique feeling overly stiff when you're done. All of our applique collections going back about 5 years or so include printable applique templates, as well as SVG files if you have an electronic cutting machine. We're going to do this the old-fashioned way and cut with scissors, but if you're someone who uses a scan and cut or another electronic cutter, know that the SVG files are included for your use. Applique Fuse and Fix can be run through a home printer. In this case, you'll want to print the corresponding template for the design you're stitching. In this case, it's 05, and you'll want to choose the mirrored option. This is because we're fusing to the back of the project. If you didn't mirror your pattern, your applique pieces will be backwards when you're complete, and there is nothing more frustrating than that. Once you print out the template, you can roughly cut what you want. So this is printed on applique Fuse and Fix. I printed the pattern twice, once for the front and once for the back. Then you'll fuse your templates to the back of your prepped Luxe Sparkle vinyl. I've already started cutting this one out. So you'll see where I've just fused right to the back. With this method, the first steps are the same. You'll stitch out your placement line, but here's where the magic happens. When you remove the paper from the back side of your cutout piece, you now have a sticker, and you can place it right inside the placement line. No tape needed. I love this method, especially with a thicker material like Luxe Sparkle vinyl. It's so much easier to cut the pieces first instead of while it's in the hoop. There's so much less risk of distortion or unhooping as well. We teach both methods, so it's up to you which you prefer. Then this will go back on the machine, and the rest of the stitching is exactly the same as the alternative method. Don't forget to match your bobbin thread with a top thread. When the design is complete, you'll remove the project from the hoop and trim the stabilizer 1/4 to a 1/2 inch outside of your design. Just enough to remove the majority of the stabilizer so you don't get a goopy mess when you rinse it out. If we left the stabilizer while rinsing, it would take a lot longer for this to dissolve and be ready to dry. So you're going to rinse this in warm running water until the design is only slightly tacky. The warmer the water, the faster the stabilizer will rinse away. So depending on how much stiffness you want left in your project will dictate how much rinsing you'll want to do. A good tip is that it's always easier to go back and rinse more than it is to add more starch back into your project. Typically rinse until I can no longer visibly see any stabilizer left. Once you're done rinsing, place your bat right side down on a non-stick surface to dry. Don't put it on anything with a nap like a bath towel. The remaining starch will turn solid while drying and you'll have a towel stuck to your project. That's one of those ask me how I know tips. Trust me, you don't want to pick towel fuzzies off of your freestanding applique. It's not fun. Parchment paper or a cooling rack both look really well. Then let your project dry completely. A step that is often overlooked with freestanding lace and freestanding applique is pressing. Your lace will look so much better after a good press with steam. Press then let cool and you are left with a perfectly spooky bat. If you want to add more shape, you can simply fold or while warm from the steam, drape over something and let cool. It will dry with a more dynamic shape. And one last thing before we go, our largest bat, files 1 and 2, is actually made in 2 pieces to accommodate more hoop sizes. You'll follow all of the same instructions as a bat made in 1 hooping, but after rinsing and drying, you'll line up the wing tips with the wing body and do a zigzag to secure them together. Make sure to tack at the beginning and end, trim your tails, and you're done. I hope you enjoyed seeing how easy it is to make these bats, and we've put together a great bundle so you can get stitching right away. This bundle contains the Freestanding Bats collection on a machine-ready USB stick, project size roll of Aquamesh washaway, Badge Master washaway, and Stable Stick cutaway, a spool of Isocord colors 0131 and 0132, plus 1 roll each of black and gray Luxe Sparkle vinyl. All of this is a $111 value, but because of this sew along, we've discounted it to only $79. And we haven't forgotten about our Spree Club members. As a reminder, Spree Club members get every collection we make, so you guys wouldn't want to purchase this collection again. We have the same bundle just without the USB for only $68. I think this is a fantastic deal, and I know you'll want to get stitching ASAP. Please be sure to share your finished projects on our Facebook group, The Perfect Stitch. I know I want to see them, and I'm sure your fellow embroiderers will as well. Thanks for spending this time with me, and as always, happy stitching.